Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the Flight Sim Historian channel. For this video, we are going to be doing part 1 of another wish list video. Part 1 will be World War II aircraft I'd like to see in DCS, and part 2 will be post-World War II. Starting out, we have the P-63 Kingcobra from Bell. I'd like to see the P-63 because, I like a little bit more variety. Plus, the P-63 was used in the Soviet theater, or Eastern Front, as well as I believe it was also used in the Pacific theater, and might have even been used at some point in the European theater. It was also used post-war in Indochina, and seeing how we may be getting a Vietnam map at some point, I think for some late 1940s, early 1950s French service, it would be nice to have a P-63 for that. And part number 2 here is the Grumman TBF Avenger, or I believe it's GM TBM Avenger, which was a American torpedo bomber, which saw service extensively in the Pacific theater as well as some Atlantic theater use. Once the torpedoes in DCS get ironed out and work properly, I don't actually think there's any playable torpedo capable aircraft in DCS currently. So I think, if that's not true, then or if that's true, I think the Avenger would be a nice first for that. So on to the next one. Part 3 of this bit is, of course, the Lockheed PV2 Harpoon, although a PV1 Ventura wouldn't be bad either. This was a medium bomber and, of course, also a maritime patrol aircraft. You can see it's got guns all up in the nose. I think it's 350 cals on the lower nose and 2 more 30 or 50 cals in the upper nose, as well as ventral and dorsal turrets. These saw extensive use during World War II, particularly in the Pacific, and had a number of jobs post-war, including but not limited to firefighting. So that rounds out the third pick. Pick number 4 is, of course, the Yakovlev Yak-9. The Yak-9, of course, being one of the last of the piston-engine Yak fighters. And I think it is long overdue for its DCS iteration. See, it's got 2 guns up front, 1 in the upper cowling, and 1 firing through the prop shaft. That's the word I'm looking for, the prop shaft. And these were used extensively both in the Eastern Front of World War II as well as, I believe, in the Korean War by the North Korean military, rounding out the number 4th spot. For the 5th pick, I, of course, am going with the Nakajima Key 43, also known as the Oscar. And this was the Imperial Japanese Army's answer to the Mitsubishi A6M0 of the Imperial Japanese Navy. These were used primarily during the Pacific theater of the war, and also saw some service post-war, particularly by the Chinese, and I think the Indonesians saw a few of them used during their national revolution. So without further ado, on to number 6. For pick number 6, I'm obviously going to be going for the Grumman F8F Bearcat, which was the last piston engine fighter of the Grumman Cat line. powered by the same R2800 double wasp piston engine that powered the F6F Hellcat and the F7F Tigercat. This airplane is known to have set several speed records. I think the fastest one of these has ever gone was a bit over 500 miles an hour. It might be a little under 500 miles an hour. But they've obviously been used during Korea and during the Reno air races as well. And I think the French used these in Indochina as well during the early phases of what would then be known as the Vietnam conflict. So with that out of the way, let's head on to the next entry. And of course, for the number 7 spot, we are going to be looking at the Gloster Meteor, which of course saw service in the second half of World War II with the British Air Force, Royal Air Force, and then saw extensive use with a number of nations after World War II ended, including Egypt, Israel, I think the Netherlands had a few, the United States tested it, but there's at least 1 or 2 maps that we have in DCS already that you could fly the Meteor over. Mostly, of course, being the Channel map, the Syria map, and I think the Sinai map. So it wouldn't be out of place in those maps. So rounding out, going to number 8. Number 8, of course, being the Messerschmitt Me262 Schwalbe. And I might have butchered that. My German's a little rusty. This, of course, was the first jet fighter to actually see some combat during the Second World War. Powered by a pair of Junkers Umo 004 turbojet engines and armed with 4 30mm cannons. So this is an obvious pick for late war operations in the Berlin, defensive Berlin area. So on to number 9. And number 9, of course, being the Vultee BT-13 Valiant, which was an American piston engine trainer, first flown around the start of World War II. As if there aren't enough trainers in DCS already, but we don't have any World War II trainers yet. There is somebody that's been working on a T6 Texan/Harvard. But I like a little variety. Plus, we have a BT-13 at the museum that I work at. So I'm a little biased. So on to number 10. Rounding out the list, of course, is the Fairey Firefly, which started up late in the war and ended up serving post-war as well. The Firefly, of course, being a night fighter, which was carrier-borne, as you can see by the tail hook on the underside of the fuselage. Typically had a crew of 2, one guy to fly the airplane, the other guy to operate the radar. So, without further ado, this ends the video.